Viewer discretion advised. Welcome to the Freak Show. My name is MaryGirl Moody, and I have a compulsive need to create theory videos, and I'm 0 days sober. Now, today we're going to talk about potential AHS 1984 killers in the fiction and non-fiction sense. So turn off the lights, lock your doors and windows, and settle in for a very special theory video. Hello everyone, post-editing Mary here. The light is really wreaking havoc on me right now, so please excuse that. During the edit of this video, some great things happened. We got 2 American Horror Story trailers, and that's great for us as fans, but it's bad for me because it makes this theory video moot. The trailer basically showed us that our killer's gonna be Mr. Jingles. He's escaped and is now on the loose. But you know what? To hell with it. I love true crime and I love speculating shit. So let's just suspend reality once again during the duration of this theory video and just pretend like those trailers never happened, okay? So with that out of the way, let's move on to the theory video. Today, we're looking at potential killers, real and fiction. When I Googled serial killers active in 1984, I got nearly 100 results.
That's a shit ton of serial killers, Cookie.
So for the sake of time, I'm going to review my top 4 fiction and non-fiction killers from the 80s. The history of American Horror Story tells us the writers take real-life monsters and spin them into people we can sympathize with and soon start to adore their misguided soul. Not all of them, but some of them. Then there are times where the writers have killers straight up scare the crap out of us with insane scenes of murder and insanity. Now, what most of these scenes have in common is that they are based on actual true facts. Whether the show spins H.H. Holmes into James Patrick March or reenacts the Manson murders, it's all based on actual facts. So it stands to reason a famous murderer will be featured in this season either as a rebranded character or simply themselves. Let's start this video with the top 4 serial killers active in 1984. Now, it's hard to say which serial killer is the worst of them all. It's kind of like finding the shiniest turd out of the whole turd farm. Impossible. So by no means are these killers my favorite or any kind of shit like that. Their crimes were horrible and a stain on our history as humans. But those kinds of people are the ones that Ryan and Brad love to write the season around. So with that in mind, let's review active serial killers in the summer of 1984. First up on our horror tour is the Green River Killer, Gary Leon Ridgway. Ridgway was convicted for 49 separate murders, making him the second most prolific serial killer in United States history. Throughout the 1980s and the 1990s, Ridgway allegedly murdered 71 girls and women around Seattle and Tacoma, Washington. Between 1982 and 1984, Ridgway himself admitted he was most active in killing women. He strangled them manually and dumped their bodies in wooded areas around Green River and other areas around South King County. In 1984, the Green River Task Force actually interviewed Ted Bundy in order to understand the killer that they sought, and his help actually did lead to them finding Ridgway. Now, is anyone else really quickly hoping that this is actually inserted into the Mindhunter series on Netflix, and the storyline? And is anyone else also seeing the 1984 connections here? Now, by this time, Ridgway had been arrested on charges related to prostitution and was the task force's prime suspect. And it wasn't until November 30th, 2001 was he actually arrested when DNA evidence from 4 crime scenes matched Ridgway's DNA. Now, Ridgway did plead guilty to 49 counts of murder and is currently serving out his life sentence from high security federal prison in Florence, Colorado. Personally, guys, I would love to see Ridgway's killings inserted into this season. The possibilities are endless when it comes to the scary situations, maybe if he's the one stalking the camp. A new camp established maybe right in the middle of a serial killer's dumping grounds. What happens when he returns to, dump his next victim? Will he adjust, find somewhere else new to leave the girls? Will he, turn to the counselors and start killing them? And possibly could the spirits of his victims that he dumped be haunting the woods that are surrounding the camp? Now, whether he's a story told in a campfire story or someone in the shadows or given a different name, Gary Ridgway is, absolutely one monster we don't want lurking in the shadows. Thank goodness he's locked up without a hope of release, but in the AHS world, he just might be free to kill again. Next up on the murder tour is Jeffrey Dahmer. Between 1978 and 1991, Jeffrey raped, murdered, and dismembered 17 young men. His crimes included necrophilia, cannibalism, and preservation of skeletal remains. That's just gross. Guys, I just can't relate to his hobbies. Now, in 1984, Dahmer was murdered in prison, ending his reign of terror forever. Okay. So my first reaction is Dahmer would be too extreme to be inserted into the AHS world. But then I remember James Patrick March. And in that sense, Dahmer has nothing on March. So it's highly possible that we could see him or a Dahmer-like character in this season. Don't forget about Hotel, we saw him in Hotel. So personally, I do hope that they don't touch on Dahmer's story because in my head, only Evan Peters can play him and he's not going to be in this season. And besides, Dahmer and Ridgway are just too disgusting. Sure, Twisty was disgusting without the mask and bloody face, even with the mask, but their backstories were incredibly sad, and it just added to the tragedy of the entire situation. I want a killer without reason, like Michael Myers, or a simple reason of revenge, like Jason Voorhees. Having a killer this season with a backstory that could fit into a labyrinth of confusion just simply won't work. Let's slow the tour bus down a little bit and talk about Christopher Wilder, aka the Beauty Queen Killer. On February 24th, 1984, Christopher Wilder went on a 6-week killing spree, starting in Florida and ending in New Hampshire. In those 6 weeks, he abducted and raped 12 women, killing at least 8 of them. Among the victims the police knew of, there were dozens of unsolved rapes and murders of young women and girls from Sydney, Australia, his hometown. So Wilder was killed by police, thank goodness, during the struggle to apprehend him. Whew. Now guys, I picked this one out because it definitely would be a good case to have this season. They don't have to use Wilder exactly as the character, but they can base the character on him, such as the killer is on a killing spree after escaping a mental institution. His thirst for blood overwhelms his mind without his medication. That sounds much more simpler without a lot of sticky background shit to explain. Last stop on the murder tour is the OG Night Stalker suspect, Joseph James DAngelo. Now, before I continue, it is important for legal reasons that I say DAngelo is only a suspect, and at this point in the video has not been found guilty of the crimes that he is suspected of committing yet, as the Night Stalker, the Visalia ransacker, I know I just said that wrong, don't be a dick in the comments, the East Area rapist, the Golden State Killer, and lastly, the Diamond Knot Killer. Damn! That's just a lot of names, and these fucking guys and their hobbies, I can't relate. Now, if you want an extensive look at his crimes, you can check out my video, Mondays Are Murder, episode 1, link is in the description. Now, a long story short, one lone man terrorized girls, single women, and couples in California as far back as May 1973 as a simple burglar in Visalia. He graduated to rapist, then murderer, when he ceased after his last victim in May of 1986. He burglarized over 120 homes, raped over 50 women, and killed a minimum that the police know of 13 men and women. In April of 2018, police arrested DAngelo when his DNA matched the killer's DNA left behind at various crime scenes. Yes! Thank goodness for this technology, guys. Now, stay with me here. I can I can totally see John Carroll Lynch's character as an extension of DAngelo. His capture was huge news when he was caught last April in 2018. I don't know when you're watching this video. There are many characters out there in the history books, and the fact that we have the technology available to help us find these criminals through their extended family is fucking major. I honestly feel if AHS is going to cover a Night Stalker, it's going to be this one. Now, they could write the storyline like this. It's 1984, 2 years before the Night Stalker's end, and the Night Stalker is now laying low in the California wilderness, particularly at a summer camp. So, maybe Lynch is actually playing a janitor this season with a killer backstory. I mean, just think about it, guys. Back then in 1984's technology, no internet, no phones, no really way of the police officers talking to one another. And at this point in 1984 of what was the supposed timeline we're going to get, the police had no idea at that time that the Visalia ransacker, the East Area rapist, the Night Stalker, the Golden State Killer, the Diamond Knot Killer, they had no idea that none of those people were the same until DNA technology confirmed it after 2000s. So, I mean, whatever killer they decide on, DAngelo is my #1 pick to mold this season's killer around. What do you guys think? Now, very quickly, as a side note, I didn't include Richard Ramirez in this list because he was already included in the cast teaser. So it seemed pretty obvious he'll be included in this season. Now, very quickly, Richard Ramirez was one sadistic fuck. From June 1984 to August 1985, Ramirez terrorized the cities of Los Angeles and San Francisco when he broke into homes, raping and robbing the women and children inside. In 1989, he was convicted of 14 burglaries, 13 murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 5 attempted murders. That sounds like something that I should have sung, like, the 12 Days of Execution, or some kind of shit like that. But Ramirez would surely fit once again in this AHS universe. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen him. So again, I do think it's highly likely we will see or hear about Ramirez somewhere at Camp Redwood. So in my opinion, there will be 2 killers this season. Now, I'm going to take 30 seconds very quickly to give a quick shout out to my patrons whose generosity enables me to make these theory videos. Murder Motel, Alicia, Mia, and baby Jalen George, Diana Fitzgerald, Kenny Joseph, Irish Melly, Michael Mullins Wright, Miss Bellatrixa, hope you're recovering well, we miss you, Jill Post, Dawn Ford, Andrew Venom, Stephen Wessel, Kevin Odom, Deep Thinker and Hogwarts Pupil, Mike Gedney, and of course, Debbie Ebby. To become a patron and earn a ton of rewards for just $1, click on the link in the description. Let's move on to possible killers using fictional killers from 1984. Freddy Krueger. The OG Freddy, of course, not the shitty remade Freddy. Fuck that Freddy. A Nightmare on Elm Street scared the hell out of me when I was 5. I begged my older brother to let me watch it. And mind you, this was 1984, and no one really saw a movie like this before. It was considered horror trash to most people, and thankfully, my parents were not like most people. They kept a copy in the house so my brother could steal it and show it to me when they were gone. Now, mind you, after that, I refused to sleep in the middle of my bed for weeks because I felt convinced Freddy would reach up through my bed and kill me with his knives. To me, it doesn't seem like a coincidence this season's theme is 1984, and that's the year A Nightmare on Elm Street came out. That movie is the mecca of scary when you want to scare all your friends. Well, of course, that and The Exorcist. And I'd love to see Freddy or a character like him with mythical powers as the killer this season. That would be another one we hadn't seen. Silent Night, Deadly Night, the Santa Killer. Now, in 2 prior theory videos, I've discussed the notion of Lee Emerson, the Santa Killer from season 2, returning. Now, when I saw Silent Night come out in 1984, my mind instantly connected to Lee. I discussed this theory before in Best AHS Fan Theories video, but I'd love to see Lee come back. Maybe he's still out there, lurking somewhere, acting normal, until one summer night in 1984, he snaps and stalks the counselors of Camp Redwood. Sadly though, AHS has a habit of making great characters only for us to never hear from them again. So I'm thinking Lee might fall into the "my character was too badass to ever return" category. Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th franchise. Now, it honestly can't be a coincidence either that Part 4 of Friday the 13th came out in 1984 and the whole premise of Season 9 is set in a summer camp. Now, personally, I am holding on to hope that Leslie Grossman will play the owner of the camp and will be one of the killers, as another fan has suggested. It would be a huge play on the movie of Friday the 13th, but I mean, it's not like that Friday the 13th would be the only movie to make a woman the killer at a camp. So even though it would kind of seem like the show would be stealing from the movie, technically, AHS wouldn't be stealing from Friday the 13th if they followed their storyline. Now, however, I am sure that even though technically it's not stealing, I'm sure there are copyright infringements if they did that, so the last thing that the network and the show would want are lawsuits. So I do think we all love to speculate this theory about Friday the 13th, but I think we can pretty much say that that is not happening due to copyright. But let me know what you think about it in the comments. Do you think it's gonna happen or not? A pyrokinetic kid like Firestarter. Now, a storyline with a group of counselors, one being with mental powers that they don't understand, is really interesting. They're not a witch, but they have mental powers. I mean, maybe the character accidentally killed someone in their past, like Zoe did with their misguided powers, and now they're working hard to control their powers while matriculating into adulthood. Hey, that plotline sounds familiar. Oh yeah, that's the plot to Friday the 13th Part 4. Fuck. All of my theories, they always seem to lead back to the Friday the 13th highway. Only I can't stop at the Bates Motel to recalculate my suspicions. But I would love to see something like Firestarter or Carrie in this season. Like I said, it wouldn't be a witch, but it would be someone with mental powers, something completely different than what we've really seen before. So I would really like to see something like Firestarter, which came out in 1984, in this season. Now, who do you think the killer will be this season? Will it be someone completely fictional, or will they be based on a real killer? Don't forget, American Horror Story Weekly Wednesday live streams are every Wednesday, and Thursdays are for theories, guys. So come back every Thursday for a new theory video from your Mother Supreme. Check out my theory and music of 1984 playlist at the end of this video, and make sure you click that like button to enable me to make more theory videos. Thank you so much for watching, and beware of sexy scat bitch.